Welcome back to another segment of Behind the Scenes of the Waltons. Today I'm going to talk about episode 10 from season 3, The Book, where John Boy believes he is getting his first book published of some of his short stories, but turns out not quite what he thought it was going to be. If you're enjoying these, please do hit like and subscribe. The book was written by Joseph Bonaducci, who is the father of actor Danny Bonaducci from the Partridge Family. And it was directed once again by our most prolific director of the Waltons, Harry Harris. At the beginning of the episode, you see that John returns home with a rowboat on the back of the truck. It has been given to him from someone he knows who doesn't want it anymore, and the children are very excited because they are going to make it pond worthy. They want to float it and row it around on Drucilla's pond, and so they're going to take on the job of fixing it up. John Boy is excited and yet concerned about being accepted into a special writing class. He's concerned that as the only freshman accepted into the class, that he may not measure up to it. Olivia tries to be encouraging, but John Boy isn't quite sure. The children continue their quest to work on the boat. They're trying to tighten the seams. John Boy returns from class and they ask for his help, and at first he's, "No, I don't have time to help you," but they finally convince him to do that, and he comes up with a sort of engineered way in which to tighten those seams. While at Ike's store, Olivia looks at a newspaper, and there is an ad in there about publishing, a press company that says basically that they will publish books. Olivia is very interested and takes the paper that Ike is through with. She decides to take a trip into town to meet with this press company. And she takes some of John Boy's writing samples, and they say that they will look them over and let her know. Ike's store seems to be a center for inspiration in this episode. Jason, who has a new harmonica he's ordered, comes in and it has arrived. He is excited and decides to try it out right away. Jon Walmsley would have actually been playing this piece live, I'm sure. And there's another gentleman there who is very interested in Jason's playing and asks him about it and asks him about his music. And Jason says that he also plays guitar and sings. This gentleman is connected with Bobby Bigelow and the Haystack Gang and says that he thinks that Jason might be of interest to Bobby Bigelow and that he should stop by a rehearsal they're having. Jason is very excited about this. As John Boy arrives home, he finds Mary Ellen sitting on the front porch steps working on something for the boat. He has a conversation with her and then he goes inside. This is a case where, of course, on the outside, we were at the exterior set on the back lot of the studio because you can see the yard and everything. As John Boy moves into the house and comes forward to the kitchen, you still see through, in the background of this shot, you see Mary Ellen, me, still sitting on these front porch steps. However, this was shot on the interior of the soundstage, so they just sort of matched up my position so that you could still see me in the background. Olivia meets up with John Boy with a letter that she has received back from the press company. John Boy is ecstatic to read this letter and hear that they want to publish his short stories. Everybody is very excited for John Boy. Jason comes in to deliver his big news about Bobby Bigelow and is completely overshadowed and overridden by the excitement over John Boy, and no one's particularly paying attention, so Jason decides to let it slide. Jason does go to meet up with Bobby Bigelow and play for him. As I was looking at this set, I seem to recall this being shot on a sound stage, the interior of this barn, which would have given them more room and better control of lighting and stuff like that. So that's my recollection of it. They bring dirt in, they put it on the floor of the sound stage and just dress everything up to look like it is an actual barn. In this case, Mayf Nutter is playing Bobby Bigelow. Now, Mayf is actually a singer, songwriter, guitar player, and he did a number of episodes of the Waltons as Bobby Bigelow. He also sang on the Walton Christmas CD that Jon Walmsley produced, A Walton Christmas Together Again, where we, the cast, sang a whole series of Christmas songs as the Waltons with little introductions in character. A very sweet CD. If you haven't heard it, you might enjoy it. It's hard to find, but I believe you can sometimes come across copies on eBay or various other places. So I think Jon did a fabulous job producing this CD. So Mayf was involved and sang a number of harmonies on that CD. The whole family is gathered around once again because John Boy has received the contract for his publication of his book. He's all excited, and Jon wants to read through the contract, and John Boy's like, no. He's very excited, and Jon sees that there's a place where, because John Boy isn't 21, he needs a parent to sign. John Boy takes the contract away from Jon and says, no, he wants Mama to sign as his guardian parent because she's the one who was instrumental in this happening. So nobody actually carefully reads this contract, which becomes an issue. Jason arrives back in the midst of all of this with his exciting news that he has been asked to play with Bobby Bigelow's band, and it is once again overshadowed by John Boy and his feeling of success over finally getting something published. And so Jason feels a little let down that nobody's particularly interested in his news, but he just kind of lets himself fade into the background once again. Over subsequent time, John Boy starts exhibiting signs of having a swelled head. All of a sudden in his writing class, where he had been a little intimidated and feeling a little put down about his writing, now all of a sudden is very important. He's getting all this interest from other people. They want to interview him. They want to invite him to special classes or attending things. And so he is letting all of this go to his head. Work on the boat is continuing, and at one point the children want to get John Boy's attention for something. They go over and they shout at him up at his window, and he finally sticks his head out the window. Now, this would have been shot on the back lot at the exterior of the house, and Richard would have had to go into this facade, this partial structure of a house, and climb up a ladder onto a platform that ran the length of those windows up there that enabled actors to go and actually be in those windows and filmed in those windows. But there was no actual room there. All of the interiors would have been shot on the soundstage. What you also notice in this shot is in the upper right-hand corner, there is visible, very clearly, a microphone. Now, I was recently told that it isn't so much that the sound department and everybody missed that there was a microphone in the shot. It is more that because television sets at the time of the Waltons in the 70s were all more or less square, whereas the capacity of the camera allowed for more space to be seen through the eyepiece than what the final television screen would actually reflect. So the camera operator could see things that were outside of what was considered the safe zone. The safe zone was everything that the camera could see and that would ultimately be seen on everybody's television screen. And anything that was around the edges of that was okay. You know, it was safe for something to be there because it would not be seen in the final production. However, now that the shape of our televisions have changed and we're seeing more of the actual picture, we are now seeing things that previously we would not have seen. Jason goes back to play his first little job with Bobby Bigelow's band, and in this case, all of these players, musicians, actually were playing those instruments, is my understanding, as I recall. I also, even though you sort of see the outside of this barn, in this case, you're not seeing a really wide angle. So I still think this was on a soundstage, and they were able to drive vehicles onto sound stages. So they just parked, a vehicle out there and gave the apparency that we were outside. So these were ways in which they could cheat sets, so to speak. It is the moment of reckoning for this publication of John Boy's books. He receives them. They're gorgeous. He's all excited. They're beautifully bound. He hands them to each member of the family. Then he finds the bill for $50. Turns out that this was not actually the publisher wanting to pay to publish John Boy's book as much as what is called a vanity press, whereby they take someone who just really wants their material to be published and they pay a price for it. They take this contract to a lawyer who explains this to them and says it is indeed an ironclad contract and he did get something in return for his money. And they all realize that they should have read that contract in more detail. John Boy is embarrassed and doesn't quite know what to do about all of this, realizes that he's going to be responsible for paying this money. Jason finally has an opportunity to tell all the family about his upcoming premiere with Bobby Bigelow and the Haystack Gang, and everyone is very excited for Jason and asks why he didn't tell him before, and he sort of says, well, everybody was all very excited about John Boy and, they weren't really ready to hear this news. Olivia feels badly about that. I thought it was interesting because as I think about it, Jason tended to be sort of the most forgiving of the children in a circumstance like this. Even when he goes up to tell John Boy about it, John Boy is very happy for him and also feels badly that his arrogance overshadowed Jason and he was being so self-important. And Jason explains that everyone's going to come see him play, and John Boy is, of course I will be there. So we are countering John Boy's sense of his own success with Jason's actual success, and yet Jason wasn't running around getting a swelled head. The whole family goes to attend Jason's premiere gig with the Haystack Gang, and we all dance and have fun, and it's another opportunity for the Waltons to be at a party, at a dance. And we did this in a number of episodes, and I always found it a lot of fun to do. When John Boy goes back to his class and knows he's going to have to explain to everybody what happened, he is met at the door by an interviewer and hustled into an actual live interview that's being recorded at that moment. He keeps trying to explain, but, and he isn't given the opportunity and ends up having to confess actually on microphone about what happened and tell his story. And I love that he actually didn't try to gloss it over, that he literally just was honest about what happened, even though it was embarrassing to him. The interviewer is played by actor Gerald McCraney, who you might recognize as a young version of the actor from Simon and Simon. The episode wraps up with the children all launching the boat into Drucilla's pond and talking John Boy into coming and climbing in with them, and just some fun stuff on the pond. That's what I have for you for this segment of Behind the Scenes of the Waltons about the episode The Book. I will be back with more segments of Behind the Scenes of the Waltons and more Ask Judy. Thanks for watching.